Okay, so I will walk back here first.
So I typed up Google Docs. I swear I did. I forgot to make some kind of email.
Oh, absolutely. No, you would not believe the percentage of people who are having some sort of technical difficulties every week, and I get a lot of papers emails. It's always fine. Don't worry about it. And sometimes we just forget things. Once I came here and I forgot my reading glasses. Do you remember? It was last year. Do you remember this? Okay.
This is Ferguson.
Yes.
I'm sorry, my handwriting is bad, so if you can't read it, just.
All right. I'm just going to tell you this. I'm not going to name any names. Yours is way not the worst handwriting that I read. I'm not going to say whether it's here or on Tuesdays, but I'm just saying there are much worse. Okay. Here's what we're going to switch it up today. We're going to do things backwards. We're going to talk about the Aeneid first. And what I would like you to do is open up your reading guide. Your questions are on page 37. But if you would, then go to the back of that page where it's just a blank page. All right? Because you're going to need to write some things down today. And get out something to write with and find a blank page. And it would be convenient for it to just be like on page 38 because it's the back of the, or 36. I don't care. That's your judgment. Let me move this for the time being because I'm going to want to write on the board. Oh, because I have it here. Well, no, let's talk about that later. Never mind. Let's get us up to the place that I want to talk about because we're going to start a new kind of paper. All right. And yeah, let's talk about that first. Let's do it in that order. So you've been writing either stories for me or reports like the Roman dining that you just gave me. And you just either using your imagination or you are just giving me facts. Oh, yes. So we're going to sort of combine those two things together. You're going to be able to use your imagination, although you're not going to be able to make things up. So, but you're going to have to use your imagination. You'll see. But you're also going to present me with information. But by the way, the fancy word for that paper you just gave me, it's expository writing. Expositus, it means just put it out there. You just putting information out there, right? That's what you did for me. Here's some information about Roman dining. There you go. What we are going to work on this semester, pretty much until the end of the year, is persuasive writing. So you're not trying to make me think a certain thing about Roman dining in your paper. You just give me information. You're not trying to convince me that it's good or bad or that you should go back and try it. We're gonna start working on the skill and the art of persuading someone to take our position, which means we have to have a position on it, right? We have to be for or against it. We have to say yes or no. And you're not saying yes or no to Roman dining. So this is going to be the persuasive essay. We're going to start out very small. And then we're just kind of build on it, okay? But this first one you're going to do is going to be really, really elementary. It's going to be really small. And that's fine. You haven't done something wrong if it turns out that it is. And also, we're going to spend 2 weeks on this project, okay? So I will tell you what to do each week, and it's going to involve a question from the Aeneid, all right? So before we ask the question, I would like to talk about what happened in your reading to get us up to the point where we're going to ask the question. And so we read up to the shipwreck, I believe. So previously on the Aeneid, Aeneas has tried to find a home in half a dozen places, and every place they tell him no. Something bad happens. And they keep telling him, you got to go to Italy. You've got to go to Italy. And he tries, but we hear on page 31, the goddess Juno hated the Trojans for many reasons. One of which, she didn't get that blasted golden apple. You know, the golden apple situation when Aphrodite got the golden apple, but Athena and Hera, who is Juno, did not. You remember what I'm talking about? So she's already irritated. But it says the chief reason was that there was a certain city she greatly loved, Carthage by name. It was just then being built by Queen Dido. And Juno hoped if it might be possible to make it the first city in the world. I think I showed you last week. Carthage is very, very close to Sicily and Italy. Africa pops up a little north there, and Europe swings south, and they're right across the way. So Juno says, well, you know, what can I do? What can I do? If Aeneas fulfills his destiny, what will happen? I mean, what's step number one? If he goes to Italy, what will eventually happen? What's the whole point? To make a new city, Rome. And if he makes a new city, Rome, what will happen to it? What will happen in it? It will grow, and it will get powerful. And then what will happen to Carthage? It'll get taken over by Rome. It would, yes. At the very best case scenario, it won't be in the spotlight anymore. Worst case scenario, it will be completely eclipsed or obliterated, which is actually going to happen. And Juno kind of knows this, that someday Rome and Carthage are going to have 3 wars, and Carthage is just going to be wiped off the face of the map. So she would rather it did not happen. So what do I do? Okay, plan 1. Let's shipwreck him. Storms are always good. She has some buddies, the winds, Aeolus, stir up winds and blows him to Carthage, where he meets the queen. Do you remember where this queen came from? Tyre, which, I did bring that on the map. I just didn't think I was going to use it. Tyre is all the way over here. Tyre is in Phoenicia. And it is just north of Israel. And once upon a time, she was married, and her brother was the king, and her brother killed her husband. And he hid the body. And he said, I don't know where he went. Maybe he's just, on a little trip. And then his ghost appeared to her and said, no, I'm not on a little trip. I'm on a big trip. I'm gone. He's evil. I buried some money. Go get it. Get your friends and get out of here because he's wicked. And so she sailed all the way to Carthage. It turns out that historically, Carthage is a Phoenician city. We don't really know too much about Queen Dido and if she was, if this story or if somebody killed her husband, it could have happened. But we don't know. But we do know that Carthaginians are Phoenician. And Aeneas is a little afraid. He lost some guys. He lost his other boats and a lot of his crews. And he's here in a strange land. And, he just took up that guy who was running from the Cyclops. You never know what you're going to meet if you land on some random place. He's a little afraid, and he meets his mom. And his mom does the lovely God thing that they do. She envelops him in a mist so no one can see him. You ever wish somebody would do that for you? Like sometimes, just right now, I want the mist. She does it for him so he can eavesdrop. He can observe, but he doesn't fall into trouble. And so he watches. And a group of his sailors that he thought were lost have shipwrecked somewhere else on the beach. And they come up, and how does Queen Dido treat them? Is she good? Is she bad? She's good. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry that my soldiers had to detain you. But I'm new here, and I'm running the show. I don't have a guy to help me, and we have to be careful because the Numidians that live to the south, they're kings, kind of on my case, and we've got enemies. But now I see who you are. love the Trojans, heard all about your story. Come on in and have some dinner. And it's fine. It's fine. And so Aeneas gets unmisted and says, I am here. I made it. And everything is cool. Everything's cool. Oh, yeah. I was unmissed versus unmisted. So this is great. This is great. But is there a problem with this situation? Because we can just settle in here. Yeah, this is not his place. And the other places had, some of them, when the ground bleeds, don't stay there. The little baby Troy that Helenus and Andromache built, that was awesome. But he kept getting the message, but he settles in. Now, I need to tell you a couple of things. They will help us with our paper that he didn't tell you, that are actually in the poem that I'm going to read a couple of little bits to you out of. Okay, 2 pieces of information. 1, it is, okay, when he leaves, how does Dido react? Yeah, she goes nutso and kills herself. And you're like, what? Okay, but this will help you understand better, and maybe you'll feel a little sorry for her. So, and this is in the real poem, but not in your retelling, but I'm going to fill you in. Juno and Venus, they're kind of at cross purposes because Venus is Aeneas's mom. Juno hates the Trojans. But they come to an agreement and said, look, there they are. Aren't they cute? This would be nice. Maybe he should just stick around. Maybe we can arrange for him to stick around. And Venus says, oh, sure, because she doesn't want anything bad to happen to Aeneas. And of course, Juno wants him to stick around so there's never a Rome. So she says, okay, here's what's going to happen. They're going to be out hunting, and I'm going to stir up a big thunderstorm. And everybody's going to scatter and look for shelter, and they're going to run to the same cave. And then they're going to have this little romantic moment in the cave. And then I'm going to come with all my goddess nymphs, and we're going to have a wedding. We're going to marry them in the cave. All right. Sure. So Dido thinks they're married. And at the moment when Aeneas leaves, he's pretty rough. No emotion. And he says, I never thought we were married. It was just a good time. We were never married. And this breaks her heart. But technically it wasn't. It was just some sort of weird thing in a cave with gods. It wasn't a legit wedding, but she thought it was. So maybe we can be a little, merciful on Dido's grief. Yes. Oh, so you know some of this? Okay. Oh, yes. So backtrack, interesting information number 2, which I should have put as number 1. The reason she's so crazy about him in the first place and wants this to be a wedding so very bad is that when they first got there, Aeneas said, hey, go get Ascanius, my son, have him come and join the dinner party and introduce him to the queen. And Juno and Venus see this, and Juno's like, this is a perfect chance. Go, we can make her fall in love with him right now. Venus goes and gets her son, Cupid, and transforms him into Ascanius. Like Harry Potter Polyjuice potion or something. Now he's Ascanius. And he comes and he's just like, oh, you're so cute, Ascanius. Come up here. You're gonna sit on the queen's lap and have a little drink. And when he does, he just does the little love arrow thing at her, So she is love drugged. all right, by Cupid, and she thinks they're married. And it does not help. Oh, we need to talk about something first. Why does Aeneas not just stay there? He's having a good time. What makes him finally leave? Yes, and did someone come tell him that? Zeus sent someone. Zeus sent, yeah, Hermes, Mercury, whom the Romans call Mercury. Yes, yes, which is why he has wings on his sandals, because he's fast. Here's what he finds. Aeneas lived in such ease and pleasure that he almost forgot all about the land of Italy and the city which he was to build there. When Mercury finds him, he had a cloak of purple embroidered with gold round his shoulders and a great sword in his hand. All right, so when you are getting down to work, roll up your sleeves and get some work done, do you put on your best clothes? You're going to go rake the yard or weed the garden? No. If you're going to be getting anything accomplished, you put on your work stuff, your top. He's all dolled up in a purple cloak. I think we've talked about that. Purple, sign of royalty. Purple dye was expensive. And as a matter of fact, who was the chief maker of purple dye? The Phoenicians. They were the kings of the purple dye industry. And it's all embroidered with gold, and he's all fancy. And Mercury says, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have a job to do. And you're just lounging around in your fancy clothes that Dido gave you and relaxing. When are you going to get to work? So here's the problem. He called his chiefs together and said, make ready the ships and collect the people, but do this as secretly as you may. He's going to give her the slip. Now, she comes to him, and she's not stupid. Oh, I wonder why those people are loading food and supplies onto the ships suddenly. Because they're leaving. I know. So she comes to him, and it says, she telling him what she had done for him and his people and reproaching him for his ingratitude. You ungrateful dog. Look what I've done for you. I don't know that she used the word dog. It was probably something much meaner than dog that I'm not going to use. And so, you dirty rat. But I did everything for you, and you were going to slip away secretly. And Aeneas claims in the poem, I was going to tell you. I don't believe it. So here is, now you get ready to write. Now we're actually going to start on this paper. Should Dido, I'm sorry, should Aeneas have left Dido? That is our question for discussion. Now, you may already have an opinion on this, but I would like you to lay your opinion aside. And we are going to brainstorm. We're going to do this right here. We're going to try to think of reasons on both sides. We need a yes column and a no column. All right. Yes, we want to try to fill both columns as well as we can. Now, how are we going to do that? I told you you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit. It doesn't mean make things up in this case, but it means imagine what it would be like. Imagine what would happen. Because the way we're going to get information is out of our own brains by asking our brains questions. Now, I'm going to open the field. Before we ask ourselves any questions, does anyone just want to throw anything out there? Anybody got one? Yes. Okay, so God's told him to. I want you to write all of these down, okay? Because you're going to use them this week to make an outline for me. Now, let's explore that a little bit, because that's a really important point, but we might want to open it up a little bit. So why do you need to do what the gods tell you to do?
Like for one, it's kind of just a religion. If God came to us and said something.
Okay, because
You gotta do this, would you just be like,
okay, obedience to gods is right. Can we say that? Does that make sense? It's the
Yeah.
right thing to do.
because like back then they believed that their gods would punish them if you didn't obey
Yeah.
them. And so
I'm gonna put a little line here just because I'm afraid I'm
it's
gonna.
like if they told you like you start this city, this would be a great city, and you should have then
Will punish if you disobey. Do you see? Now I want you to just step back and look at something. Matthew said one thing, but look, we're getting a bunch of. If we think about that, if we explore it further, if we ask ourselves more questions about that, we get more. Can you think of an example of people who were punished by the gods for? Okay. So Prometheus, that one guy would be Prometheus. Do you remember Arachne
oh yeah.
and Niobe, who ran around boasting about her children? They all got super punished by the gods for disobeying.
That guy was chained to the tree. They just kind of
Yes, that's Prometheus. Eat his liver out. Yes, I bet it grows back overnight. Okay, so lovely. So this is what I mean by ask yourself questions. He said one thing is like, well, why should I do that? Well, why should I do that? Well, what happened if I don't? Does anyone else have just off the top of your head another yes or no? Just a reason that comes to mind. Sure.
Yes, is because he probably had like a greater legacy in Rome than Carthage.
Oh, okay. So he will be more famous. That's kind of a lame way of saying have a legacy, but I'm trying to think of it in little terms. You can phrase it however. Be more famous if he founds Rome, if he fulfills his destiny. Which assumes, I'm assuming then that having a legacy and being famous is a good thing. So somebody might argue the other side.
And I mentioned that all the people in Rome and stuff,
Mhm.
just back in that age, all they cared about was their status and like honor.
This is true. Personal honor and glory was very, very important. Okay, anybody, before I start, like when we run out of steam, I'm going to start asking you questions. But as long as we've got steam going, you had one, didn't you? Didn't you raise your hand just a minute ago? I said, did you have another? Or was that what you wanted to say? That's okay. Okay. What is it, Jesse?
He should not have left because he decided to have some fun in the cave.
Okay.
So he made a mistake.
She thinks they're married.
Yeah, because honestly, if you are married, you shouldn't have left. But he doesn't think.
Yes. Okay. So, I love it because we got two at once. She thinks they're married. He didn't marry her. We'll emphasize marry. He didn't marry her. Okay, in his point of view. From her point of view, it is. And that assumes that you don't leave spouses.
Wait.
It's
So
wrong.
were they living together?
Yes.
They were.
Oh, yeah.
So then they were married.
Hmm.
They were married, but he didn't think they were.
I don't.
So
Well, okay. So, and we're not going to solve this today. There are people who sit around and have arguments about this. Okay, dude, we're John and I don't really marry, which we're not going to do. But you need, guys, when you pick a side, use it to your advantage. You see, bring out the guns. Yes, if she thinks they're married, you shouldn't leave your spouse because it's wrong. And now here's asking of a question. What will happen when he leaves to her? Well, she'll be more than sad. She'll be ashes. She'll be toasted. Okay, so she will kill herself. Now, of course, the other side could argue, well, he didn't know she was going to do that. But here's how persuasion works. We highlight the side we want to defend, and we kind of set aside what the other people might say. It sounds a little shifty, but we do it all the time. Every time you watch a commercial on television, they are trying to persuade you to buy their thing, and they are belittling or setting aside all their competitors, right? Oh, you have one?
So, the whole marriage thing,
Okay.
the gods, so marriage is like an agreement between you and the gods. So if the gods say, oh, you can break that off, then I think you should be allowed to break that off.
Okay. Well, I think you should use your position on that in whichever side, use it to your advantage. If you pick a side and the whole marriage thing is inconvenient for your side, then don't talk about it. You see, that's what you do in a persuasive essay. Okay. So I asked the question, what will happen? And that's a really good question. Let's keep asking that question. What else will happen if he leaves? Oh, that's really good. So Carthage will suffer without his help. Does that make sense? It's not just him, it's all of his soldiers and his guys are helping to build the city now. They're helping to run the city. And they're relying on him. And Dido already said Dido may be attacked by enemies, because she said that when they first came. Yeah, she's going to be more vulnerable. I'm probably not writing, but I'm trying to say everything I write. So Dido may be attacked by enemies.
What? I can't remember what. Did he do anything like before that aided the city? And anything like?
Well, just helping to build it. Yeah, he's just being there. And also the fact that she's got a whole troop stationed in the city now gives them a sense of safety from enemies. So I mean, not actively, but his very presence there was a protection. Okay, so that's good. What else will happen if he leaves? Or because he leaves? We already touched on it. What's he going to do? Rome will become powerful. Now, we have to think, okay, so do we like that or not? If we like that, then yes, he should leave because Rome needs to be built. This is a separate idea than the gods told him to. The world needs Rome.
What language did this is kind of off topic, but I want to use it for my argument. What language did the Carthaginians speak?
That is an absolutely wonderful question. I have no idea. I think there is a Carthaginian language.
Oh, there is.
But I don't know, like this is when Carthage is first being built. So I'm assuming they were speaking whatever they speak in Phoenicia. Because she just come from there? Yeah, so Phoenician. We'll just say Phoenician. There is a Phoenician language. So we'll go with Phoenician at this point, yes.
Why didn't you just go with it?
Oh, can you hold on to that thought? I mean, seriously, because I will forget, but you need to hold on to that with the death grip, okay? Because I'll forget where I'm going with this if we get sidetracked. So what is Rome going to give the world? Tell me some things Rome's going to do for the world. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to give literature. Can I just put lit? You'll know. Okay, philosophy, roads, aqueducts, and peace and safety. Okay, that's kind of I'm laying it on thick because I'm arguing for this side, but under the Emperor Augustus, they called it the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. It was so safe, the empire was so safe There weren't highway robbers and things like that. And it was just safe to travel. Travel was great at that point. It's not great for you if you're being conquered. But let's not talk about that because we're trying to suppress negatives over here. So if we are pro-Rome, we love this. And I'm going to give you a little piece of historical information. I already gave it to you a little bit. Rome and Carthage are going to have a series of wars. And Carthage is going to be crushed. Oh, it's not bothering me. It's fine. Thank you. And I need to tell you something about Carthage that the Aeneid doesn't even tell you. But I'll just, because I know it. You guys can know it too. The Phoenicians were the people, like I said, who lived just north of Israel. And they talked about in the Bible. In fact, the wicked queen Jezebel was the daughter of a king or priest from Tyre or Sidon. She was Phoenician. And the Phoenicians are the worshipers of the ever popular Baal, but it gets worse. They're also the worshipers of a god named Moloch. And in the Bible, it says that the Israelites went astray after other gods and they worshiped Moloch and put their children through the fire.
Oh, yeah.
They offered their children as burnt sacrifices to Moloch. This is the kind of gods that Carthage worshipped. I mean, you think that Zeus and Hera, Jupiter and Juno, that they're kind of not the greatest, but we're not putting our children in furnaces for them. They had a wicked religion, and Rome is going to wipe it out. So if I think that's a good thing, I might say Carthage will be destroyed. And that's good because they're wicked. Do you follow my line of reasoning? Mm-hmm.
Another reason is because if the Roman Empire didn't happen, like the gospel,
Okay, yes, that's good. So Roman peace, I'm running out of room. I might have to just erase. Roman peace helps spread gospel. That's what I'm writing down here. Up the side of my little line. Now we're kind of one-sided. Okay, now, what if we don't think it's a good thing for Carthage to be destroyed? Well, then we're going to have to say, no, he shouldn't, because Carthage, not only will it suffer without his help, but Carthage will eventually fall. And if we don't think that's a good thing, you see, then he shouldn't leave. So you see, you got to play up the side you like, yes.
Kind of what I'm getting, so I was still trying to figure out, was he actually married or not? Because would he have said he was married?
He told her, I never saw a marriage. I never had a marriage with you. That's what he says.
Wasn't it like super against living with someone?
No. I don't know. People in all times and all places have done this. It's not a new thing. It happens.
Yeah.
It's not good, but it happens.
If like the God saves the right?
Yeah.
It's like he could kind of use that. I was thinking he could use that to his advantage. Like, oh, we were married, but then the guys were going to go do the same, and so now they said it's fine.
So they overrule the first God
Like,
thing.
we're married, and then now they're like, hey, you got to do this mission, so no, we're not married anymore.
If you want to use the marriage thing somewhere in your paper, I give you free rein to just argue it in, whatever way. Because, today, marriages aren't valid if there's no witness, for example. And technically, I guess the nymphs were witnesses, but where you find them to ask them, you have to have a marriage certificate. So it depends on the marriage laws in the time and the place where you live, which I have no idea what the marriage laws. I know what later Roman marriages were like, but at this point, I don't know. So that means you can have some freedom with that, okay?
I actually think, at first I was thinking, because I said, why didn't she go with her? Why didn't she go with
Yes,
her?
I want to go back to that now.
But I'm just thinking, she's the one who brought all that Moloch and all that stuff to Carthage because she was Venetian. And so if she would have gone to Rome, then that all would have happened.
Yes. Oh, I like that. Okay. But okay, so let's, 'cause I want to, okay, now here's what you're going to be my external memory for me. We've been asking what will happen if he leaves. I want to ask what will happen if he doesn't leave. But let's go with that. Why doesn't she go? Because, it's not an either or. We're acting like she has to stay, or they both stay together, or he has to leave. And there is a third option. What if they leave together? So, yes, he should leave because she could come with him. I mean, just the fact that she's going to be upset, shouldn't have to be upset. But if she comes, so we're arguing, should Aeneas have left Dido? Obviously, that precludes taking her with. If she comes, she will spread Moloch worship, since we talked about that. What will happen to her city if she leaves? Yeah, possibly. I mean, her Carthage weakened, so at least weakened, if she leaves.
Also, they didn't know, or Aeneas didn't know, that Rome was going to become that great city. So none of this, he had no idea.
This is true.
This was going to happen. He didn't know if it was going to be successful. He didn't know if they were going to be wiped out. And so
I think
he wouldn't have known if Carthage would have been destroyed. So he really had no good reason. It was kind of just out of hope that it would become.
But didn't they say, like, you need to go make this?
I think they did insinuate that it was going to be a great city, but no, he didn't know about Carthage. Although when he goes to the underworld after he leaves her, he's going to be informed about those things, but he doesn't know those things yet. This is another inconvenient fact, Jesse, that we sweep under the rug when we argue persuasively. That I say, well, because Rome needs to be built because of all these things. Well, this is what the other side in a debate would say back to you. Well, he didn't know. He's still guilty because he didn't know all those things. But when we're writing the paper and we're presenting our side, we are free to use those things even though he didn't know at the time. But I mean, you're absolutely right. We're omniscient in this. We know the whole story from beginning to end. They are actors in the story and they don't know. But we are gonna just ignore that. Okay, so we asked ourselves, what will happen if he leaves? Okay, what will happen if he stays? What will happen to Aeneas if he stays? Okay, can I just call him A? A may lose his religion.
And like, it's
Um,
not very important to, like, it's not like, it's just important for, like, Christianity, especially because, like you talk about hard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
That
Yes.
But, like, if you're thinking about it from, like, his religion, like, if we said that the Greek gods are all real, like, he could have been punished.
Yes.
Like you said, right?
Yes, yes. So something else just popped into my head. We were asking what will happen if he stays? What will happen to his son if he stays? Will he ever get to be a ruler or a king? Maybe.
But he might also get sacrificed.
it'll be Dido and Aeneas' son instead of
Yeah. Maybe. So we might say Ascanius will be cheated of his future, whatever that future was supposed to be. Of course, we might argue here Ascanius will settle in and be a prince of Carthage and be better off than he will be in Italy, where they have to build a whole new city from scratch. I just thought of something when I said build a whole new city from scratch. He's already in a city if he stays. It saves him so much work. Right? I'm tired. Let me add to this. Okay, hold on, don't forget. They've been fighting for 10 years. They've been sailing for, I don't know, a couple years, they've been sailing, they've been shipwrecked, they've been threatened by harpies and cyclops. And don't you think it would be nice to just settle down finally in a city with buildings and streets that I don't have to build and I don't have to go out there and do it myself? This is pretty attractive. Yeah, okay, now say it.
That wouldn't work, because if that was his idea going into it, he would have stayed in that kind of ghetto.
Well, that's true. But we're going to suppress that information if we want to use this argument. But you guys, I love the fact that you come back at me with things. That means you are thinking it through, which is, do you see this is all we are doing here? I just keep asking myself, what will happen? What's the difference between Rome and Carthage? What's the difference between their religions? What will the future hold? What was in the past? What has happened in the past? All right, I feel like this is pretty good. We're a little weak on the no, but we do have a fair amount. So let's, no. I don't want to do that because I don't want people to feel pressured. I don't want you to share who you're, okay, because we're not group choosing. You're each individually choosing. Okay, we're gonna all use our brain power to think of at least 2 more no's. No, because they're married. She'll kill herself. Carthage will suffer. Dido may be attacked. Carthage will fall. She can't come along. We're forgetting what it said in the book. She reproached him for his ingratitude. She gave him a home, clothes, and not just any clothes, purple robes with gold thread, food, comfort, welcome, not only to him, but to all his crews. In gratitude. So if he leaves, he's ungrateful. I like it. I like that one. Did you tell? I got excited about that one.
Think about all the time, was Jesus ungrateful? Whenever he was in each city,
No.
And they would give him something.
No, but we can't. I don't feel like we can compare. Well, we could compare Aeneas to Jesus. I mean, I'm not. Don't get upset if I say that. But I mean, they both have a mission, and they both leave places to continue their mission, and we don't.
He traveled through many different cities. There was a lot of people that gave him and provided food.
Yes. See, this is wonderful. You guys are already in the next stage. Because the paper we're going to work on this time, we're just going to argue one side. But as we expand, you're going to start trying to think, what would the other side say, and then refute it. How will the other side? And you're already there. You're already thinking what the other side will say, which is awesome. I love it. Okay, last no. The ungrateful. He was ungrateful. And then I just thought of something else from consulting the book. So thinking about the story is always helpful too when you do these brainstorming. Okay, go back and read. What does it say? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. If he's sneaking away secretly, it means he's doing something wrong. People do not, I know, but I'm arguing this side. See, do you see how in an argument like this, everything, you can punch holes in everything. Everything's got a weak point. Okay. Yes, Dalton.
Maybe a reason not to leave was he gained like disrespect.
From the people with him, disrespect. Yeah. So can we put that along with this maybe? I don't know. Okay, just a second. Mistreating others, namely Dido, leads to disrespect from his companions. I know this is a mess up here.
Is that true though?
I don't know. If you start mistreating others, I'm going to lose respect for you. I've seen you beating somebody up. You see you beating Jesse up out of the hallway. I'm like, oh, I thought Rhett was a good sort, but I'm not. Sorry, I just picked someone randomly. Okay, we're going to stop here because we have Rome to talk about too. This is not our whole morning. Here is what okay, do you have all this on a paper? Can I erase this? This week, I want you, I didn't want to erase this, but it's okay. I can grab one of your lists if I want to refer to it. We are going to form an outline, and I want to show you what your outline is going to look like. Write this down too. And some of you have done this sort of thing already, and you're familiar with it, and you'll know where I'm going. But if you haven't, I'm going to explain it from the beginning as if you haven't. How do I always lose it? Okay. So your outline's going to look like this. You're going to have, first of all, you have to choose a side. Okay, that's step one. I don't care which side you argue. And someone asked me yesterday, do you have to believe in the side you argue? No. No, you're not making a statement to me of your personal feelings. You are arguing a position in a paper for practice, for mental practice in doing so. And you can totally disagree with what you write. It's not lying. It's just practice defending a position. After that, you need to choose 3 reasons why you have that position. I'm just going to call the reasons R, okay? Reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3. And I want you to put those in an outline, okay? But as you know, these usually, sometimes it's going to be a paragraph. And what we need in each paragraph is at least 3 supports for that reason. Support number 1, support number 2, and support number 3. Support 1, support 2, support 3, support 1, support 2, support 3. So I have Aeneas should not leave because, pick a reason. And you have a page full of reasons in front of you, right? And then you need 3 reasons, 3 smaller reasons why that reason is true, which means, and follow me, this is the trickiest part of this process. Your 3 reasons need to be big reasons. For example, Aeneas should not leave Dido because she gave him nice clothes. That's a very small reason. Do you see? It's going to be really, really hard for me to think of 3 supports on the nice clothes.
One
But-
argue that that's her job because she is
Well, see, but you know what Jesse's doing, that's what I want to do. So that's like a close-up in a movie. I don't want a close-up. I need to pull the camera back and think. Aeneas should not leave because Dido provided hospitality freely to him. Now I can think of a bunch of things to say. She gave him food. She offered him half the city. She gave him the purple clothes. You see, now I can think of a bunch of supporting reasons because my reason is bigger and it's not a tiny reason, yes.
He should have left because that would be disrespectful.
Yeah, disrespectful. So frankly, Dido, he should not leave Dido because they are married, because everybody was kind of fixated on that whole thing. It was interesting. I'm trying to decide if that's a big enough, if that's a camera pullback, or if that's a close-up. Okay, 3, he should not leave because Dido thought they were married. I guess you could support that. It is wrong to leave one's spouses. A marriage was performed by the gods, so it was sanctioned by the gods. Can we think of one other thing? And because of her feeling this way, it's going to break her heart to the point of suicide. And they were already living together. So, but this is the thing I want to make sure you understand. Do you understand what I mean by a big reason and a small reason? So, for example, remember the first thing I put on the yeses was he should leave because you have to obey the gods. And then we put sub things, right? We put the gods punished Prometheus and Niobe. We had all these examples. So a small reason would be Aeneas should leave because the gods punished Prometheus and they will punish him too. Maybe we could support that, but a better one would be disobedience to the gods is wrong. That's a big reason. And then we can say, because they will punish you, because it is morally wrong, because he needs their help to continue his quest. We can support it. So here's what I want to make sure. Does everybody see the difference between those two? A big reason and a small reason. Give me feedback. Okay. So I want you to use your list. You may freely add to the list. And in fact, before you start outlining, you might even want to just get it out tomorrow, and take a look at it. Maybe read through the section again and just think about it. Use your imagination. What does Aeneas feel like? What is happening to him? What does Dido feel like? What is happening to her? What's happening around them? What's happening in the rest of the world? That sort of thing. And see if it generates ideas for you. If it doesn't, I think you're okay because we have a lot of ideas already. But if it does, awesome. I would love for you to bring them and share them next week if you think of more things to add to your list. And then I want to use your list to choose 3 reasons that seem broad, and then for each of them, support them with at least, you could have more than 3, but at least 3 points. And that means sorting through your list and saying, okay, this seems like a very, very small, like maybe a supporting reason. This one seems big. And then you can look on your list, ooh, can I find support for that? You may not find 3 supports on your list. You may have to use your imagination a little bit. I want you to bring your outline back next week so I can see it. And I also want to assure everybody, if you have any trouble with this, if you've never done something like this before, we will make sure everybody has a workable outline before you leave next week. No problems. But I want you to toy around with it this week before I just jump in and make you do it or help you, okay? Which I think this was probably a lot of help. So are we good? That's all you're doing this week is choosing a side, choosing your reasons, and putting them into an outline form. Then the next week we'll talk about writing it up into a paper, okay? Good? All right, that's your first assignment. I want to finish talking about your reading. Aeneas left, let me get my chair. Aeneas left Dido and said, what is that big fire on the horizon? I don't know, but I think something bad is happening. And they go to Sicily. They end up in Sicily. And he says, you know what? It's been a year since Dad died. Dad died in Sicily, and we're here again a year later. And we never had a chance to have a proper funeral for him. With what? Would somebody go close the door? It's got to help. I don't know what. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Say, how is it a good idea to play drums in a place where people are trying to do schoolwork? But no, I don't understand that. Okay. In Greece, and maybe Troy, but we know Greece, it was popular to have sporting events at your funeral. So, do you remember when Patroclus died in the Trojan War retelling? And they had funeral games for Patroclus. Well, Aeneas decides they're going to have funeral games for Anchises. So, we have wrestling and boxing and what have you. Did you notice there was a boxing match? Did you notice? You want to hear this, I guarantee it. The boxer, I don't know if I can find it. Oh, it's much funnier in the poem than it is in here. This old guy got up and he boxed, and he wasn't very fast, but he was really, really powerful. And he won. He almost beat the guy to death, and then they stopped the boxing match. And he says, yeah, well, let me show you what you saved him from. And he just goes up to an ox and he just punches it in the face, and it drops down dead. He just punched a cow. That's my favorite part of the Aeneid. It's very, very entertaining. But the part I want to point out is the foot race. They're running, it's a deal, run down to the tree or whatever and go around. First person back wins the race. Great. So they're running. You know what? We have dinner after a funeral. That's weird. I mean, that's no less or more weird. Okay, guys, can you stay with me because we're going to run out of time. In the foot race, there were two contestants that I want to draw your attention to, Nisus and Euryalus. Nisus was in first place. Let me tell the story, Jesse. Nisus was in first place. And then a guy whose name begins with S, and it escapes me, is in second place. And Nisus's best friend Euryalus is in third place. And they're running. It's awesome. And Nisus hits a spot where they had been sacrificing animals and there was blood all over the ground, and he slipped in it and fell down. It's a bummer. He's no longer in first place. And he says to himself, well, I'm going to lose, but my best friend doesn't have to lose. And when the second place S guy comes by, he just grabs him and trips him and makes him fall down. So his best bud Euryalus springs ahead and wins the race. This, of course, causes a great controversy. It's like, what? You can't just trip me. I deserve first place. And Nisus is like, well, I felt I was in first place. If falling down makes you not, still deserve first place, then I deserve first place. And so they get it all sorted out. But I would like to just point these two guys out to you because you're going to meet them again in this week's reading. And there's going to be blood involved again. This is a lovely foreshadowing of something to come. So I just want you to remember that we've met these two guys, Nisus and Euryalus. They're best friends, and they'll do whatever it takes to help each other, right? If I can't win, I want you to win. Does that make sense? Okay. I wanted to point that out. And so they have lovely funeral games, and they finally, hopefully, are going to get to Italy, but wait. Juno sees that they're in Sicily. I don't like this. I don't want this to happen. So, do you remember what she does? She stirs the people up to do something.
They're talking about how long it's going to be in to see a home for themselves, and then comes and it pretends to be one of the girls. we should just burn the ships.
Yeah.
So they like go and burn the ships and all this, there wasn't, like Iris or something.
Yes, Iris.
And they're like, and then they realize, hey, she's in the tent right now, she's not there. And then Iris is like, oh, they probably flew away. And but then it was too late.
Yeah, because they already burnt the ships. They didn't burn them all, but they burned enough that it was going to be a problem. And of course, the guys, because the ladies aren't hanging out at the games, they're by themselves. And the guys were like, well, what are you doing? Why are you setting fire to our ships? Like, we're sick and tired of traveling. We're just tired of it. Just stop already. Which I kind of understand how they feel. So Aeneas has a friend, an advisor, who says, look, here's an idea. Maybe you should leave some of them here. You don't have enough ships to take everyone anyway. And besides, you don't need the downers and the naysayers. If they're not 100% on board with the whole, we're going to Italy and we're building a city no matter what it takes, if they're already whining, leave them. So he did. He left behind, he went to the king in Sicily there and said, can my people have a city here? He's like, sure, leave behind anybody who's not hardcore. This isn't so bad. It's kind of like in the Bible when Gideon's army gets whittled down to the 300 really hardcore guys who are going to go after the Midianites. Aeneas's army is getting thinned out, whittled down to the point where the toughest of the tough are going to go hit Italy. And he has a dream the night before he leaves, and his dad appears to him. Thank you for the funeral games. And you need to come to the underworld and visit me. When you get to Italy, when you hit Italy, down here in southern Italy, there's a town called Cumae. It's not on our map, unfortunately. And when you hit Cumae, you're going to find forests, and there's a cave. And there's a lady there. She's a prophetess. They call her the Sibyl. She's the equivalent of the prophetess at Delphi, of Apollo. And I want you to go see the Sibyl, and the Sibyl will tell you what you need to do. So he gets to Italy. They finally land in Italy at Cumae, and he goes to the Sibyl, and she says, okay, here's the deal. You have to go out in the woods, and you have to find a golden branch, a golden bough, and you have to pluck it off the tree. If it's meant for you, it will come off in your hand, just like King Arthur's sword in the stone. If it's meant for you, it will come off. And you bring it to the Sibyl, and it's like your ticket in. And of course, his mom sends doves, or in the form of doves, she leads him, because he didn't walk through the whole forest looking for this thing. She leads him to it, and of course it comes right off in his hand, because it's meant for him. And the Sibyl says, okay, follow me into the cave. We're going to the underworld.
What happened last time you followed her?
This is true. Sibyl doesn't want to get married. She's got a job. She likes it. She doesn't need anybody. He goes and finds his dad in the underworld. And his dad shows him souls who have not been born yet. So we have to use our imaginations. This was kind of a Greek philosophical thing. Sometimes they thought about, where does the soul come from? Does it exist from all eternity, or does it get, put, when your body is created, does it go in? This is a theological thing we're not going to hit right now as far as Christians go, but this is what they thought, okay? And so I want to read from the actual Aeneid some of the souls that he sees. Who is he, so set apart there, olive-crowned, who holds the sacred vessels in his hands? I know that snowy mane and beard, Numa the king, who will build early Rome on a base of laws. Do you care to see now too the Tarquin kings and the proud soul of the avenger Brutus, by whom the bundled fasces are regained? Consular powers will first be his, and his pitiless axes. When his own two sons plot war against the city, he will call for the death penalty in freedom's name. Unhappy man, no matter how posterity may see these matters. He goes on and shows him Julius Caesar and Augustus, generals from the war with Carthage. he shows him all the great Romans. So remember Jesse was saying earlier, Jesse, we're talking about you in your absence. Jesse was saying earlier that Aeneas didn't know these things were going to happen. Now he does, because he's seeing a panorama vision of the history of Rome and its greatness. Yes.
Imagine like if we believed that was actually true, and like to make like our souls full there.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps, like, looking up.
It's weird. And then his father tells him this, and with this we're going to end. Others will cast more tenderly in bronze their breathing figures, I can well believe, and more lifelike portraits out of marble. Other people will be artists, make statues out of bronze or marble. Argue more eloquently. Other people will be great speakers. Use the pointer to trace the paths of heaven accurately and accurately foretell the rising stars. Others will be great seers and astronomers and scientists. Roman, remember by your strength to rule earth's peoples, for your arts are to be these: to pacify, to impose the rule of law, to spare the conquered, battle down the proud. You're not going to be the greatest artist in the world, or the greatest scientists, or the greatest astronomers, or speakers, although they had some good ones of all these. You're going to be a ruler. Your art is to rule people. That is your destiny. And that's what his dad leaves him with. So Aeneas, is kind of getting charged up for this task. His dad has given him what he needs to get through the hard times, Like, by golly, I've got a mission, and this mission is going to work. Now he does know. Before he didn't know. You were absolutely right. Now he does know. Oh, this is so going to work. And these are my descendants. This is my legacy. And you mentioned, being famous, leaving a legacy. I'm going to leave a legacy. I would like you to read chapters 11 through 17. 11 through 17. It's like one extra chapter. One chapter is only one page long or something. So 11 through 17, whatever page that gets us to. So if you need to write that down, or just if you'll remember it. We only have like 25 minutes left, but we need to talk about Rome.
We just did.
We need to talk about Rome some more. All right. For what deed? Oh, wait a minute. I don't think I want to talk about that yet. First, I want to mention what kind of government they had. They got rid of their kings, so they don't have a monarchy anymore. And we find out that they elected 2 magistrates called consuls, elected every year by the assembly. Within the city, the power of the consuls was limited. But in wartime, when they took the field as generals of the army, their authority was supreme. All those who had been consuls generally became members of the Senate. We have 2 chief executive officers, consuls, and a Senate, and some lesser offices that I'm not really going to dive into, treasurers and things like that. And these offices were elected. What do we call a government where we elect people to make laws for us? A republic. A republic. We are a republic. We do not vote on everything. We are not a democracy. That would be a lot of trouble in a country our size. We elect officials, and they make laws for us. We vote for local laws and county, and state, things like that. But for the most part, we elect officials, and then they legislate on our behalf. And then if we don't like them, or they're done, their time is up, we get new ones. And that's exactly what Rome did. Rome was a republic. And so these consuls were kind of like presidents in the city, but when it was war, they were the generals in chief, they were commander in chief, and they had all power. to do what they needed to do in war. They didn't have to, in other words, send back to the Senate for permission to attack the enemy or something like that. They were in charge. And but the Tarquin kings are not going to leave without a fight. You just throw me out of my city and think I'm not going to come back and fight you. So they went to first plan. Maybe we can get a conspiracy going inside Rome to get us back in. And they did. They persuaded a bunch of the young people in Rome. Life was pretty fun under the kings. Like they had good parties, good food. Let's have those kings back. And two of the conspirators were Brutus's sons. Brutus, the guy who threw out the king, one of the two first consuls of Rome. I just mentioned in the Aeneid that Brutus had to sit in judgment of his own sons. It's a capital offense. They will execute you. It's treason. And they say that when they brought them in, everybody's watching the executions. But when they brought in Brutus's sons, everybody looked at Brutus. What's he going to do? Is he going to pardon them? He could. Nobody would like it, but he could. What's he going to do? How's he going to react? Stone-faced. Brutus just watches his sons get executed. Because that's what a good Roman does. Right? That's the way it is. It's like that guy who, killed his sister because she was crying for the enemy. No, we don't cry for the enemies. Even if they're our family. And he just took them out. It's rough. But so that didn't work. The whole plot to get in the city didn't work. So we need to try something else. And what we're going to try is we're going to go to the king of Clusium. Do you see the little, this is just a square of this area right here. And Clusium is right up here. Here's Rome, Clusium, right up the Tiber. And there was a king named Lars Porsena. Sorry, I have no balance because I can't use my foot to. Lars Porsena welcomed the Tarquins, and the Tarquins said, look, they're throwing out kings in Rome, and you're a king. And you should be worried about this, because what if it spreads? What if they decide to throw you out? You don't want that. We need to nip this right now. You need to get an army together and go put us back on the throne. Lars Porsena was like, okay, we can do that. So he comes to Rome. He said those exact words. Okay. So I don't have, I should have, I have another map that's just a big close-up of Rome. I should bring it next time. We read last week, there's only one bridge across the Tiber River. And Lars Porsena and his army with Tarquins are parked on the other side. And one of the Romans named Horatius got a plan. What did he do to make him famous, Jesse?
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
We learned about this.
Actually, there were three of them, but it was Horatius's deal. And so the deal was, I'm gonna go hold the bridge, and two guys were like, we can't let him do it alone. So they went over there, and the three of them held it for a while, and then he hears it creaking behind him. He hears the bridge creaking. Yeah, well, he told the other two guys, get across while you can. Go run across the bridge. They're like, you sure? Yes, I got this. They ran across the bridge. The bridge collapsed. Horatius is alone on the other side of the Tiber with the enemy. And he prays, Father Tiber, protect me, bring me safe to the other side. And he just dives in with his armor and everything, and swims to the other side. And they're shooting arrows at him. He's awesome. He's so awesome that 2,000 years later, they wrote an amazing poem about him. And I got to read some of it. I've talked to you. This is the poem that I told you, you guys could memorize, but nobody wants to. No, it's a collection of poems. And actually, the poem is abridged in here. I'm not reading the whole poem, so it'd take me half an hour. But I'm just going to read some sections so you can get a feel for it, because it's awesome and I don't have a chance to read out loud very often. Lars Porsena of Clusium, by the 9 gods he swore that the great house of Tarquin should suffer wrong no more. By the 9 gods he swore it, and named a trysting day, and bade his messengers ride forth east and west and south and north to summon his array. East and west and south and north the messengers ride fast, and tower and town and cottage have heard the trumpets blast. The horsemen and the footmen are pouring in amain from many stately marketplace, from many a fruitful plain. Okay, so he calls together the army. I'm going to skip around, okay, to get the best parts. And so Lars Porsena has sent a message. He's called them together. This is probably the most famous stanza in the whole poem. Then outspake brave Horatius, the captain of the gate, to every man upon this earth death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods? Hew down the bridge, Sir Consul, with all the speed ye may. I, with 2 more to help me, will hold the foe in play. In yon straight path 1,000 may well be stopped by 3. Now who will stand on either hand and keep the bridge with me? Okay, and then it goes on. The 2 guys volunteer. Meanwhile, the Tuscan army, this is Lars Porsena, right glorious to behold, came flashing back the noonday light, rank up behind rank, like surges bright of a broad sea of gold. 400 trumpets sounded, a peal of warlike glee, as that great host with measured tread and spears advanced, the ensigns spread, rolled slowly toward the bridge's head where stood the dauntless 3. The 3 stood calm and silent, and looked upon the foes. And a great shout of laughter from all the vanguard rose. And forth 3 chiefs came spurring before the mighty mass. To earth they sprang, their swords they drew, and lifted high their shields and flew to win the narrow pass. And then there's a long section where they fight individual guys, and they kill them all. But meanwhile, axe and lever have manfully been plied, and now the bridge hangs tottering above the boiling tide. Come back, Horatius, loud cried the fathers all. Back, Lartius, back, Herminius, back ere the ruin fall. And so the 2 guys run back. Alone stood brave Horatius, but constant still in mind. Thrice 30,000 foes before, and the broad flood behind. Down with him, cried false Sextus, with a smile on his pale face. Now yield thee, cried Lars Porsena, now yield thee to our grace. Round turned he, as not deigning those craven ranks to see. Naught spake he to Lars Porsena, to Sextus naught spake he. But he saw on Palatinus the white porch of his home, and he spake to the noble river that rolls by the towers of Rome. O Tiber, Father Tiber, to whom the Romans pray, a Roman's life, a Roman's arms, take thou in charge this day. So he spake, and speaking sheathed the good sword by his side, and with his harness on his back, plunged headlong in the tide. And now he feels the bottom, now on dry earth he stands. Now round him throng the fathers to press his gory hands. And now with shouts and clapping and noise of weeping loud, he enters through the river gate, borne by the joyous crowd. It's a great poem.
I kind of imagine it short little, like just kind of straight looking, but like it's like the Mississippi.
Apparently it's pretty big. It was not navigable by like today's modern ships, but they could sail ships up the Tiber to Rome if they weren't too huge. I do not know. I've never been to Rome, and I do not know, and I did not look that up, like the stats of Tiber. But apparently it is big enough to be an obstacle. And you know what? A river doesn't have to be really big if it's deep enough and you can't ford it there. Then you can't bring your troops across because they'll get swept away. It also depends on the current. But this is a really good question. I don't know the answer. Okay, so that kept them out, but they're still parked over on the other side, the Lars Porsena and the Tarquins. So a guy named Mucius gets a plan. And he says, okay, I'm sneaking over in the camp and I'm taking Lars Porsena out. Just doing it. And unfortunately, he had no photographs of Lars Porsena. Wasn't quite sure what he looked like. And when he got to the camp, there were two guys sitting at a table together, and they were dressed fairly similarly, and they were paying the soldiers. It was the paymaster and the king. Well, I got a 50-50 chance, you know. One of them is probably, and he picks the wrong one. Awesome, see? But it's good to learn about things in various places, and then it sticks in your head. Yeah, yes. So he takes him, he captures him, and he says, "What are you doing here? I will torture you to find out." And so how does he get the nickname Skyvola, left-handed? Let's let Rhett do it.
Because when they, so he went, didn't kill the paymaster
Mm-hmm.
instead of the king, and like the king was all scared, and he started running, people captured him, and then they said, when are they gonna put him in like the fire, burn him?
Well, they said, we'll torture you. We'll torture you if you don't tell us.
He was running in the fire, and he was like, and they were like, what, you're not scared of it? And they took him out.
Yeah, this is how much I care for your torture. I'll burn my hand right off right in front of you. Take that. Like, oh my gosh. So he said, well, Lars Porsena said, I don't know what to say to somebody that brave. I'm letting you go. And Mucius said, because you are letting me go, I will now tell you what you couldn't have tortured me to say. And then he tells him a story that I think is made up, because earlier in the story, we don't hear about it. It just says he sneaks over there by himself. But he tells Lars Porsena, yeah, there are a whole group of guys over in Rome, and we've all pledged to come over here one at a time until somebody gets the job done and kills you. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea that there's a group of people anywhere in the world who's going to come one at a time and try to kill me. I'm never sleeping again, not going out. Lars Porsena was a little freaked out, and he left. Like, you know what, Tarquin, done. Just I'm done with your whole recapture the throne thing. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So Mucius really did get the job done with his threat, whether it was true or not, that there was actually a band of people.
They came over, and he was like, he had to go ask permission.
Oh yeah, no, he did it with the authorities' permission, but we don't know that there was. Earlier in the story, we get this from a story named Livy, and he doesn't say anything about there being a band of conspirators.
I bet there were people that like didn't like him,
Maybe. So they get rid of the threat from the Tarquins. They let the Tarquins take their property out of the city and leave. And then they start expanding. The neighboring tribes here, the Etruscans, the Sabines, the Aequians, the Volscians, the Latins, all these people who are living within a few miles of Rome might not be real happy that this up-and-coming major power is rising in their midst. And Rome kind of likes to expand, and it is their job, to beat down the proud and rule the nations, according to Aeneas's dad in the underworld. So they start fighting these groups, and they start fighting these tribes down here, the Volscians. They're kind of almost, related, because Alba Longa is down there, and it was founded by Aeneas's descendants too. But they're in battle, and a general takes the Volscian town of Corioli. And so he gets a nickname too. He gets to be Coriolanus, because he's the taker of Corioli, just like Mucius gets to be Scaevola. And by the way, all of Mucius's descendants get to be Scaevola. Once you get the nickname and it becomes part of your name, so like his great-great-grandson, whoever's Scaevola, you're like, aren't you the guy whose great-great-grandpa did the hand thing? Yes, I am. That was my great-grandpa. That'd be kind of cool if a family member did a major, amazing thing, and then you get to inherit the title. You don't have to you don't have to burn your hand off, but you get the title. Anyway, Coriolanus gets to be Coriolanus and all his descendants too, because he amazingly took this city. Yeah, Rhett, did you want to say something?
They kind of believe that honor was passed, or bravery was kind of passed through the bloodline. So didn't they kind of think that since he did the hand thing, they would be just as brave, kind of?
Possibly, maybe for a while. By the time of Christ, that they had enough examples of families that kind of eventually went south, that didn't turn out so well, and I think that was kind of blown But that's quite possible. There was an expectation anyway that you would be brave. Coriolanus was a great general, but he wasn't very nice, and he wasn't very sociable and friendly and tactful. So after the war, when he was back in Rome and he was one of the lawmakers, they got a shipment of grain in. They had enough people. They were shipping food in up the Tiber, and they wanted to sell it at discount prices. And Coriolanus said no. No, people they don't deserve that. Like market price. I know they're hungry, but market price. And this ticked everyone off so much they ended up banishing him. They threw Coriolanus out of the city. And Coriolanus went straight to the Volscians. He just went straight to the Volscians that he had just fought and said, hey, Rome's throwing me out. I got no love for them. And I know stuff. I've got their secrets. I could help the Volscians if you trust me. And they did. They took him on, and he starts attacking. He starts attacking Roman outposts. Well, the next question I asked you is, what made him finally decide to stop attacking? He was marching on Rome itself. What stopped him?
His mom and his sister came, and they were like, please don't attack Rome.
Yeah.
Basically. And then he was like, okay, I will respond.
Yeah. He didn't come back to Rome. He couldn't come back to Rome because he was banished. But yeah, he said, all right, I got to listen to my mom. But his mom just chews him out. They bring her into the camp, and it says, Coriolanus sprang from his seat to embrace his mother. But she, changing her tone from entreaty to anger, said, before I admit your embrace, suffer me to know whether it is to an enemy or a son I have come. Whether it is as your prisoner or as your mother, I am in your camp. Oh, ouch. Am I your mom or am I your prisoner? So sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. We don't know what happened to him after that. There's no record. Apparently never came to Rome. We don't know if the Volscians got tired of him and booted him out because he wasn't fighting Rome anymore, or if they just let him live there. His story just ends there. We don't know.
I can totally see like a movie like this scene's happening and he's like as the scene is closer to my mom started I would yes. My mom's very good. She walks in, she's like
Okay, two last guys, I guess. I forgot about one of them yesterday. This new republic that they founded, they knew that sometimes you have an emergency situation and you need to make fast decisions. And in that case, it's really helpful to have one person in charge. So they had a provision where if there's an emergency, they can choose one person, and they called them the dictator. Dictator, which means one who tells you, one who speaks, right? One who tells you what to do. We hear the word dictator and we always think it's something mean. It was not mean at all for them. It was just an office you held. You could hold it for 6 months. And it was simply because fast action was needed. So they voted who should we choose as dictator? And they went and they asked them to be dictator, and they took care of business, and then they laid down their office after 6 months. Well, they were fighting around Veii, which is it? Yeah, just to the side of Rome there. And one of the consul's armies was surrounded. The camp was being besieged. And the other one was trapped and couldn't get to it. And they were in danger of losing all their army. So they said, shoot, we need to do something. We need to do it now. And the consuls aren't even available. We need a dictator. So there's an old man named Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus had been consul years ago. His family was well known. But now he was living outside the city. He's just farming. Like, we want Cincinnatus. So they went out in the story. I'm not going to read because of time constraints. I see time's ticking. He's working. He's just like digging in his garden and hoeing and plowing. He's all dirty. And he's just wearing his tunic, because You don't want your toga wrapped around you. Your toga's only for like public business and fancy stuff. Just take it off and wear your tunic when you're just working. And so he's sweaty and grimy, and they come up and say, Cincinnatus, we have a message from Rome for you. And he says, okay, just a second. Tells his wife, go get my toga, because public business. And he's trying to wipe the sweat and the dirt off of him, his toga. Like, okay, you're a dictator. We want you, come back to Rome, deal with it. So he did. Came back to Rome, he dealt with it. In, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks. And then what did he do?
He did such a good job, and then the people basically like want him to be dictator like forever.
Well, it wasn't that. He was only going to get 6 months. He was only going to get 6 months. But my question was, did he keep it for 6 months? Was he eager to? He left. He did his 2 weeks and he left. Okay, here's dictator power. I'm giving it back, going back to my farm. See you later. He could have been in charge for 6 months. He could have done anything he wanted for 6 months. Probably, I'm going to say probably not. They're pretty, yeah, because it would smell like a king. No more kings. But the reason I'm making a big deal about Cincinnatus is because he was revered by the American fathers, the fathers of our country. Cincinnati, Ohio is named for Cincinnatus. And George Washington in particular was called the American Cincinnatus because when he had the army, after the war was over, he said, I give you back my power, done, laying down my army, don't need it anymore, going back to my plantation. And then later, when he was president, yeah, he probably could have gotten reelected as long as he lived. Everybody loved George Washington. It's like, no, okay, I'm done. Somebody else I'm going back to my plantation, just like Cincinnatus. And so I brought a few pictures of pictures of George Washington. There's statues of George Washington. I'm afraid they're not very good. The resolution. Okay, this is a Washington monument in Baltimore. It's Baltimore. And George Washington is wearing a toga. I'll hand it around. And you can't see it very well because he's doing it towards you. He has a scroll in his hand. He's holding a scroll. It's his commission, his army commission. And the statue is pointing towards Annapolis, Maryland, which is where he laid down his commission for the army. This is him being Cincinnatus. I give you back my commission. All right. This is George Washington standing next to a weird-looking column. But let me point out something about this column. It looks like a bunch of rods bundled together. Does that mean anything? I can't see it because it's got the toga draped over it. It's the Foscase. And behind him, you can't really see this weird shaped thing is a plow. He goes back to his plow. I know. After doing his stint, where he has all the power, the Foscase. Okay, the next one's going to make you laugh a little bit. This one's full out. I mean, seriously. This is called Enthroned Washington. It was commissioned for his 100th anniversary of his birth. It's in Washington, D.C., and it's full out Roman hero, George Washington. Okay. Yeah, but he's handing his sword back. He's got the handle out. He's handing in the power. He's giving up the power. And so this is a common theme in American art that George Washington is. You can just leave the pictures on the table there when you're done, and I'll gather them later. George Washington is the Cincinnatus. All right, so I'm going to say something to you guys while the pictures pass around, then I got to let you go. I forgot this yesterday. I'll have to remember. One more, Commander Camillus. After they conquered Veii, after Rome conquered this small town of Veii, they wanted to maybe deport half of Rome and just have them live in Veii, and they could be sister cities. And there was a general, a consul Camillus, and he said, "No way, we are not abandoning Rome." And people were mad at Camillus. So he's kind of a jerk But here's what we're going to blame him for. You know, he took Ve'i. I don't think he took some of the stuff. It wasn't true. The problem was he had vowed some of it to the gods. And then but I think he's embezzling stuff. We want him out. And they threw Camillus out of the city. And I want to set up your reading. As he left, he stretched out his hands to the capital and prayed to the gods that if without any fault of his own, but merely through the malice and violence of the people, he was driven out into banishment, the Romans might quickly repent of it. I want you to finish chapter 6 this week, and they will repent of it, but good, very fast. And so chapters 1 through 17 in your Aeneid book, finish chapter 6, and bring me outlines. Give me 3 reasons why Dido, Aeneas should or should not. No, I said that. All I want is an outline. Don't write the paper, because I'm going to remind you about the elements that we want to include in the paper and talk about those. No, just the outline. Just the outline. So it's good. It's not too tough. All right. Have a great week. See you next time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.